Good evening, everyone, and welcome to PEO's 2024 Council Election All-Candidate Meetings. My name is Marisa Sterling, PEO's Pandemic President from 2020-21, and I will be the moderator for tonight's discussion. You can turn on closed captions for tonight's discussion by locating the tab along the bottom menu of your Zoom screen and clicking on Captions. Tonight, we will hear from the candidates for the one-year term of Vice President. This is has one vacant position to be elected by all qualified PEO members across Ontario. The three candidates participating in tonight's meeting are Asif Khan, Guy Boone, and Vaj Bande. This meeting with the candidates via webcast is intended to help voters learn more about the candidates and PEO's issues to inform their vote. The profession needs every PN to vote to help form a council that will guide PEO in the coming years. Voters were able to post questions online in advance of this discussion, and tonight we'll try to get to as many questions as possible over the next hour. In accordance with the approved protocol for the all-candidate meetings, as moderator, I may shorten the questions and not read out preambles to questions. I may select any question. I may remove offensive and duplicate questions, and I may ask questions not on the platform. Each candidate will be provided 2 minutes for opening remarks. I will then direct a question to a candidate. That candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question. After the candidate has responded, the remaining candidates will have 1 minute to address the first candidate's response to that question. Following the question period, the candidates will have 90 seconds each for closing remarks. The order of speakers was determined by a draw earlier this evening. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of PEO and are the responsibility of the candidates. No fact-checking of statements by candidates will be performed for tonight's discussion. So without further delay, let's get started with opening remarks. The first candidate for Vice President is Asif Khan. Asif, please go ahead with your opening remarks.
Thank you, Marisa, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Sardar Asif Khan, and my preferred name is Asif Khan. In the brief time we have, let me share some detail about myself. I began my academic journey with electrical engineering bachelor's when I came to Canada as an immigrant in 1998. Shifting my focus to manufacturing, I then earned master's in manufacturing engineering, business administration, and doctorate degree in manufacturing systems engineering. Throughout the years, I've undergone extensive training, including participation in top-level leadership programs. A little bit about my experience. I started my volunteering experience at chapter level in 2006, from volunteer to member to secretary, vice chair, chapter chair, and past chair. Committee members, I've been on CLC committee, planning committee for 4 years in a row. I joined GLC in 2021. 2022, I took over as GLC vice chair, and I've co-chaired GLC summits twice in a row in the last 2 years. My business experience, first couple of years, I worked for a utility company as electrical engineer. I moved to Canada, switched to manufacturing, from engineer to supervisor to manager, department head, and regional level. Currently, I'm leading the division for North America. In academia, I've been teaching since 2013. I've been teaching a graduate engineering course, which really affords me opportunity to inspire some of the graduate engineers and motivate for the licensure. Finally, I strongly advocate for the critical role of the membership, and I believe they are the backbone of the PEO. Members really must be respected. They must be consulted in the major decision making. And I'm looking forward to share more about my vision during the meeting and answering your questions if there are any.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Asif. The second candidate for Vice President is Guy Boone. Guy, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm a practicing electrical engineer. I currently work for a company that manages and operates, maintains the Canada-US North Warning System. And so I've been required to pick up licenses in Newfoundland, Labrador, the 3 territories along with PEO. So it's been a full-time job lately just doing CPD. We also value EITs. We've hired a bunch of EITs. They're good people, and they are our future as well as PEO's future. I just want to say that since I left council in 2020, where I served with Marissa as president, I've been busy. I've been working for a company, a high-tech company in Markham, Ontario, which gave me good exposure to the Toronto scene. I was planning to be there tonight, but I chose to stay here in Ottawa due to family reasons. Having said that, I did run in the Ottawa election and gained some good experience. So my platform tells you everything about me. I want to value and promote member respect. We need greater communication. I want to outreach to the members and industry to value what PEO does. Leadership is important and the public interest is paramount. Having said that, we're going to talk about stuff like chapter inclusion, engaging with government, as well as the all-important experience that's required for engineering graduates and the foreign-trained professionals, along with emerging disciplines. Yes, we got it wrong. PEO must embrace emerging disciplines along with advanced technology. And yes, we can work with CPD. Having said that, we can still modernize it because, trust me, working with 5 regulators is not fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guy.
Your support.
Thank you. So our next candidate, the third candidate for vice president, is Vaj Bande. Vaj, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow engineers. The first pressing issue within our organization is that PEO must become a world leader in engineering self-governance. Professions in Canada, including engineering, calls upon the members to govern themselves to protect the interest of the public. However, PEO is becoming increasingly bureaucratic and decisions are being made on your behalf without any input from you, the members. This is wrong. Another pressing issue is that in the last decade, about 60% of new engineering graduates did not get their PEng license. The reason for this is because the PEO application process places young entrepreneurs at a disadvantage. This must be addressed. PEO has also refused to adapt to the 21st century by rejecting emerging disciplines. We risk of becoming irrelevant, so we cannot continue our current dead-end path. In any case, PEO must change now, but the time is running out. I am committed to making that happen and advance our profession by addressing these issues. Over my tenure as a PEO volunteer, I have served as the chair of Georgian Bay chapter, participated on PEO committees, served on the PEO council as the lieutenant governor appointee in 2019, and I am the current elected senior councillor at large. I am experienced and have a deep understanding of what must change to bring PEO back to the members. Help me do this by electing me as your vice president. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaj. So that concludes the opening remarks segment, and we're now going to go to the questions. So the first question will go to Asif. What do you see as the most important challenge facing PEO today? And if successful in your election bid, how will you address this challenge on council in the next year? Asif, please go ahead.
Thank you, Marissa. And the most important challenge I see today, the PEO facing, is the trust, is the value of the PEng as for the members. You know, it's really embarrassing for us that out of 91,500 members, only 10% go out and vote. Members are feeling that license is no more than a wall-hanging thing. Members are just keeping the license because they want to use for the job. This is really embarrassing. We're the innovators, we're the problem solvers, we're the analytical minds. If I'm elected as the vice president, I will try to introduce the culture of the innovation to regulation and licensing, value adding, and what is in it for the members. It's not a rocket science. If we consult with the key stakeholders, which is really the most important one, are the members, and then we come back and strategize, it should
Thank you,
solve
Asif.
it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guy, please go ahead.
Yeah, I like what a number of things that Sat has said, but I want to go back to member respect. And I served on council, as you know, Marissa, and I like to go and update myself. We are a self-regulating profession. I see no minutes. I don't even see a member roster anymore. So that's a problem. That needs to be addressed. We need to be transparent. We need to have trust in the public and our members. Our members, our license holders, are critical key to self-governance. We need EITs. They are our future. We don't play games. I mean, we value them because they are important. They are our future. And CPD can be enhanced, absolutely. So that's three. Maybe I'll pause.
Thank you very much, Guy. Vaj, what would be your response?
Okay, so the important question about most important challenge facing PEO today. The most important pressing issue facing PEO and the profession of engineering in general, in my opinion, is its irrelevance. What I mean by that is that despite its mandate, PEO has no plans to address emerging engineering disciplines or how to modernize the licensing process. Additionally, PEO is having trouble branding itself as the only engineering regulatory body in the province of Ontario. That, in my opinion, is the most important challenge facing PEO. And if we continue on this path, we will be irrelevant and in few years. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Vaj. So I'm going to, next question sort of continues on what we've just been talking about, just said a little bit differently. And Guy, you'll be the first one to answer on this one. So what do you see as the biggest threat to self-regulation as it pertains to PEO and the engineering profession? Guy, please go ahead.
Yeah, the biggest threat is really being true to ourselves. Self-regulation means that our members have to be involved in the process. As much as we would like to really pass it off to hired staff, we need a hired staff. Don't get me wrong, hired staff is important. But the thing is, we are a self-regulating profession. So therefore, it's not optional to just simply let them sit in the corner and do nothing. Okay, they have to be forefront, right? So that's important, and we need to think about how we can allow the chapters to be a greater interface, to be more tuned with what's happening at council and what's happening at the headquarters. So I see these two issues as being linked, and I think my colleagues can add some more to that.
Thank you, Guy. Vaj, what are your thoughts?
Okay, the biggest threat to self-regulation, in my opinion, the way PEO has been functioning recently, self-regulation seems to be on its last legs. This is shown by PEO's roadmap of having only hand-picked provincial government appointed councillors and the phasing out of chapters. On the current path, PEO will abandon self-regulation in only a few years, and I am committed to following that now as the candidate for vice president. Thank you. That's my response.
Thank you, Vaj. And Asif, what are your thoughts?
So yeah, I think if we understand the self-regulation, obviously I don't have time to explain, but I hope that people understand. The only threat and the biggest threat can be when it is seen as a monopoly control, because it is a privilege, it's not a right. So the government had set standards and you have to follow to self-regulate. So the really biggest threat is that you run in a transparent manner, so that you're not seen as a monopoly control and you're doing everything in the best interest of the professional regulation. That's what it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Vaj, you'll be taking this next question. So is there anything PEO can or should do to enhance its public interest protection mandate?
Is there anything PEO must do to enhance its public interest mandate? Yes. Number one is PEO needs to expand its current mandate of only licensing 5 engineering disciplines. We need to expand to include emerging disciplines, and there are many of them, and we are not licensing them, and we need to include that in its mandate. Number one. Number two, we have not done anything on the most pressing issue the world is facing, and all of us know about it, that's environment. We need to include environment in our mandate going forward. Although we can't do everything on our own, we will need help from provincial and federal government on the environment. But the two things I would like to include in PEO's mandate going forward is emerging disciplines and environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaj. Asif, what's your response?
So I also agree with that partially when he mentioned the environment, because when you look at the mandate, it is actually public welfare and the environment, and we seem to be forgetting that. But in addition to that, we have to incorporate flexibility of regulation, and we have to respond to the social changes faster. And then most importantly, that I'm really big on is the repeal of industrial exception. We're just seeing what's going on in the Alberta and what happened in the Quebec and the monitoring in British Columbia. So self-regulation is very delicate, and all of these things are really important to include it to protect the mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Guy, what are your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, so I agree with everything that I've heard so far, but I would like to also add that we need to really embrace emerging disciplines. It's a game changer. It's going to change the count on our 30 by 30, because when you're talking about software, cyber, AI, it's a different mix of people. Okay, we can't exclude EITs. I can't. That is absolutely a bad decision. There's no way to sugarcoat that. It's a bad decision, and we're trying to backtrack now and call it something else. Guys, let's call it what it was. It's branded. It's known. It's needed. It's absolutely. If we don't reinstate it, our future is going to fall apart. And then if we lose government trust, we're then totally out to lunch. Sorry.
Thank you, Guy.
Exactly the way I feel.
Yeah. So let's dig into a few of the different aspects first of leadership. So this next question will go to Asif to start with. So PEO Council is currently made up of 25 individuals who bring a variety of perspectives as engineers and members of the public. And the role of vice president is also a designated member of the council's executive committee. So describe any experiences you may have in building consensus with large disparate groups. How would you apply this experience to the role of vice president? Asif, please go ahead.
Thank you. So my key attributes, including business and financial acumen, and analytical approach, value addition, continuous improvement mindset, and ability to unite diverse viewpoints, are very, very important. I've been employed 100 times. I mean, we don't have time to give you a lot of examples, but most recently, after the merger of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles with Peugeot, PSA, which is really entirely two different cultures. So now we had to deal with French, Italian, and North American, and I led the team of 35 people across the world to develop a new system that is applied and implemented across the globe. And so my approach would be promoting, cultivating an inclusive environment and utilizing diverse viewpoint to drive effective decision making, and that benefits the PEO. You have to have that ability to basically unite the diverse viewpoints, regardless of the cultures.
And Guy, what would be your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, so I'm a consensus builder. I'm as I've shown here tonight, there's always room for extra people to be part of the conversation. But because this is such an important role as vice president, I chose 2 chairs, right? So the thing is, you always need to make space for others to join the table to have, I don't have all the answers, but I want to listen to members. That's what I'm going to do for the next 2 months. I want to listen to members and I want to engage. And the thing is, I'm a conduit to bring ideas and collaboration. I like to think outside the box and problem solve. That's what I said when I ran for city council. I'm a community leader that solves problems. It's simple. So, that's what engineers do. And that's what we need to be given the space to do.
Okay. And Vaj, what about yourself? What are your thoughts?
Thank you for the question. As elected vice president, as you mentioned, serves on the executive committee. And in terms of the special skill experiences to bring to enhance the governance of PEO, if I am fortunate enough to be elected vice president, I must say I am the senior councillor at large with my term ending in 2024. Before that, I served on PEO council as lieutenant governor appointee in 2019. I have been a chapter volunteer for past 13 years spanning over 3 different regions: West Central, East Central, and Western. I have served on PEO committees like Audit and Finance Committee, Governance and Nomination Committee, Advisory Committee for Volunteers, Organizing Committee for Education Conference, and Organizing Committee for PEO Chapter Leaders Conference. In addition to that, I was a member of Saugeen Shores United Football Club, and I am currently on the board of directors for Engineers for Profession, also known as E4P. This leadership experience inside and outside of PEO has given me the skills and steadfastness to revive the dying governance of PEO, and that's what I would like to bring to the council if I am fortunate to be elected. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me now pick up on a couple of things that have already been raised around some issues and concerns. And we're going to go to Guy first for the first response. So one concern that we have heard is the loss of the EIT status in Ontario. So EIT, also known as Engineering Intern or Engineer in Training Program. So what do you think of this PEO decision? How concerned are you about future engineering graduates and their engagement in PEO, in gaining engineering experience, and in applying for a PEng license? Guy, please go ahead.
Simply put, I'm surprised. That's part of the reason why I'm here at the table, because I told my young engineers in the office that I'm disappointed. I don't know what to say. I can't even explain it to them. But here's the thing: if you call PEO, or if you call other jurisdictions, which I'm now a member of, they say, well, just stay with us. We value you, right? The territories, they value them. Newfoundland values them. So, Ontario's loss is everybody else's gain, right? So everybody has got an opinion, but everybody I talk to, and the thing is, I hear tonight in the earlier debate, we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back under another name. Sorry, guys. We made a mistake and we need to fix it. ASAP. Plain and simple.
Okay. Vaj, what are your thoughts on this?
Losing EIT status. Well, as part of the Form Factor legislation, there is no room for EIT. And that was a huge mistake, of course, made by the council, phasing out of the EIT program. But as per the Form Factor, we can't include it. However, as has been the practice, PEO always is in a reactionary mode, never proactive. And then they realize that it's a huge mistake we have made. And not only the mistake, we are also losing a lot of revenues. For the last year, we are in a deficit of about 4.85 million because we are losing EITs. So I will be the first one to support some kind of a program. We may not call it EIT, some kind of program which and bring back that committee, which again council has put down what called lab license assistance committee, where we used to help EITs. So some kind of a program needs to be developed to bring that to help budding engineers to become licensed.
Okay. And Asif, what are your thoughts on these concerns?
So first of all, I have to respectfully disagree with my friend Vaj. FAR-Factor does not hold you back for keeping the EIT program. It's not spelled out anywhere. It is the interpretation. What it is I believe that EIT had a lot of value. EIT, so I teach at the university for 13 years, and I bring PEO guys, Sammy and Tracy, down to my class, 65, 70 people, and this is what they love. This actually motivates these graduates to pursue the licensure. So now with the FAR-Factor, we remove the Canadian experience, and there's hundreds of thousands of foreign graduates who will apply for the licensure. It actually makes more case than ever before that you have some sort of EIT program that basically get them acclimated with the system and codes and the laws so that they can be ready for the licensure. So I'm in favor of it. It should come back in some shape and form.
Appreciate you sharing your thoughts there. Let's now look at another area of issue and concern that has been raised by some individuals. And Vaj, you will be the one to first answer this one. So continuing professional development, precursor to that was called PEAK, has been introduced as a voluntary program last year and starting as a mandatory program January 1st of this year. So how will you direct the evolution of this program from the perspective of public protection? Please go ahead.
Okay, first of all, we as members, we were cheated by not putting a referendum on PEAK or implementation of CPD. Now, since it has been made mandatory by the council, so I don't want PEO staff or non-licensed engineers deciding on what should constitute as CPD for my practice of my engineering practice. So counselors need to be organized to get involved, including many more volunteers who will decide what should constitute the CPD hours, and depending upon how many each individual has to say. Since I have 20 seconds, I would like to clarify that tells you how much inexperience the one candidate has. FAR-Factor, as of May 15, it says engineering intern program will no longer be offered to new applicants. That's FAR-Factor legislation.
Thank you, Vaj. Yep. Okay. Great. So now we'll go to Asif for your thoughts on this question.
So I am in favor of CPD because, we all continue to develop ourselves. We're professionals. I mean, we're not afraid of continuing education, and everybody's doing so. What is really missing and what is awful is the way it was launched. It was very confusing. I talked to, and Marissa, I'm sure you are in the same board that I am in teaching. All of my colleague professors are confused every single day. Yesterday, they're reaching out to me, hey man, what do we do with this? How do we do that? So we could do a better job in terms of launching it, assessing varying needs of disciplines, assessing varying needs of the professions, and then coming up with something in a way that people see what is in it for them, and people will be more than happy. There's a difference for the requirement of a telecom engineer versus a guy who's overseeing a bridge building for the last 40 years. So I'm in favor of CPD, but CPD needs to be refined and comprehensive planned so that people can see value in it.
Okay. And Guy, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm really into this mode of CPD, but not because I necessarily want to. And of course, I need to update my PEO, which is the last one out of 5. So I feel like I'm really close. The interesting thing is my research showed that although I'm disappointed that members were muted in this process, I do support review to ensure that it's truly effective and that we remove the requirements for non-practicing engineers, okay? Having said that, my survey of the 5 jurisdictions that I operate in PEO is actually the less painful, believe it or not. I only have to do 15 hours. I have to do 30 for Newfoundland, and if I don't do it before the the deadline, I get penalized extra 15%, but it's 240 hours in the Arctic. So over 3 years.
Mhm.
It needs to be reformed and unified.
Appreciate hearing your
Canada.
thoughts.
Yeah.
So I want to pick up now on another area of concern or question that came up a little earlier, and this would be Asif, that you will start this response. So PEO has 36 chapters that function and host activities that are legally permitted for a regulator and may not be essential to effective board governance. What is your view on the chapters? How should council deal with the chapters in the coming year? Should they remain with PEO? Should PEO ask OSPI to take over their management, or should PEO do something else?
So I'm a chapter guy, not because I have grown from the chapter, because I see the value. Being in the chapter for 16, 17 years, I see the value chapters bring. You know, the chapters are the only ears and eyes for the PEO. If you remove the chapters, PEO will go blind. And we're already suffering a lot of things when it comes to, actually, as a matter of fact, PEO chapters can be more revitalized towards the regulatory function per se. I know the Cadent report, it was brought up as a question or the issue that chapters should no longer be part of the PEO because they're not part of the regulatory function. So I believe that chapters should be actually empowered. Chapters are the ears and eyes. OSPI should not take over. OSPI is an advocacy body. It should stay on the side. And chapters should be more a function of the regulatory, function of the PEO.
Okay. And Guy, what are your thoughts on what you've heard?
Well, as the chapters are important. They're a key component of PEO's engagement strategy for self-governance. The chapters need to be used, but it needs to be reformed. As Eastern Regional Councillor, I put together a white paper, and I don't think we need 36 chapters. We need to modernize with technology, as we're doing here tonight with Zoom meetings. Also, the world is different than 1922. So I'd like to see us, I introduced the concept of clusters, and with the technology, which was not even famous when I was talking about it, as you recall. And we can actually do it better, more effective with more member engagement. And it can take on a more active regulatory function. Absolutely. And the EITs, it should be independent, fully funded by PEO, not part of OSPI.
Okay. And Vaj, would you like to share your thoughts on what you've heard?
Yes, I would. Actually, I have a nickname. Some councillors call me Mr. Chapter. I do grew up out of chapter system, and I do fully support it. And I should be patting my shoulders. Had it not been me and some of our fellow councillors who put an end to getting rid of the chapter system. PEO did run there was a task force which was trying to go by Harry Clayton's recommendation to get rid of the chapter system. And they did a risk matrix analysis, which was done in 2022. And we put an end, and I'm happy that at least in the next PEO strategic plan, chapter system will be continued to be supported by PEO. We have a meeting next week, actually, whether chapters should stay with PEO or OSPI, but chapter systems for next few years will be supported by PEO, and that's a good sign. And obviously I'm always a chapter person and will fully support it.
Okay, appreciate the response. I want to now talk a little bit about the current strategic plan that PEO has. And this question will first go to Guy to respond. So the current strategic plan for PEO has a goal to improve the licensing processes without compromising public safety. And as of July 1st, 2023, the Ontario government required PEO to comply with fair access practices. So how do you think PEO is doing so far on delivering fair access to Canadian and internationally trained and educated engineering graduates? And how will you ensure this going forward?
So the expectation is absolutely per the strategic plan, spot on. But here's the thing. the category of room for improvement is huge. And there's more that can be done. And I don't think PEO has measured up yet. Having said that, we need to embrace emerging disciplines, new technology, AI. But the whole reason for Profacta, if I may say, was to address the labor market issue. So what we did is we complied. We always talk about modernizing, and I was even surprised to know that we weren't even fully online process. That was kind of like one of the realizations when I was on council, because I thought we did that some years earlier, to only find out that we didn't. Anyway, we've needlessly complicated the process.
Okay.
There's a lot of other bodies doing
Thank
good
you
work,
very much, Guy.
and we need
Yes.
to learn from that. Learning is what we need to do.
So great. Okay. And Vaj, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, as you already mentioned about the strategic goals in 2023-2025 roadmap, we need consultation in order to make it happen. In response to FARPACTA, we need consultation from some key stakeholders, a public focus group, and internal PEO capacity analysis, and a regulatory environment scan of all, which some of which we have done in the year 2022 to find PEO's capacities and gaps and opportunities. So based on that feedback, we can make this strategic goal a reality. One of the things in FARPACTA, which unfortunately is that although it says that within 10 days we need a receipt of the completed application, but the caveat there is that when the application gets declared complete, with the current process, it may not be getting declared complete in even in years, and unfortunately that has somehow stopped the new licensing processes, and we need to get around it by putting more ARC members. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. And Asif, what are your thoughts on what you've heard?
So as far as the accelerating the process of the application and licensure, the FARPACTA, I think it's right on. If we can't really confirm the completed application in 10 days, that's a problem, right? We should be able to do so. But 90% applicants receiving license decision within 6 months and so on and so forth, I think that is right on. My problem, and there's an opportunity right there just because of this, that reaction-based plans don't work. So this is something we should have done proactively. This has been ongoing for years. People have been coming here, applying for the licensure, waiting years, not hearing back. So what are the things that are going to be problematic? We need to understand, certify, identify today, and start working on those so that then those don't become a problem. And then we're not again dictated by the government to do those things. We have to be proactive.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I want to pick up on an issue that was raised by a candidate. So in this one, Vaj, you'll be the first one to respond to. So climate change is a significant issue facing the world population, and net zero targets have been set in Canada for 2050. What do you see as PEO's role in protecting Ontario's environment and the financial interests of the public caused by climate?
I already mentioned about climate change. The first thing we should do is include climate change as one of the most pressing issues the world is facing in our mandate. We cannot do it alone. We do need help from provincial and federal governments, and the current target of federal government to have net zero by 2050. Maybe it's achievable, but we need help from provincial governments to make it happen. Again, we need to be proactive in this instead of a reactionary mode, which PEO has been going for many years. And if we include it in our mandate, we can definitely support our other organizations, governments, provincial and federal, to achieve that net zero goal. And one thing we need to expand on emerging disciplines, and environmental engineering should be a separate category instead of being lumped under civil engineering or so. So that can also be a part of PEO mandate, emerging disciplines. Thank you.
Okay. And Asif, what would be your response to what you've heard?
Yeah, I agree with Vaj also. I mean, we're in a world that we all have to work together to save this, from this climate change issue that we're all facing in the world. right? So the PEO should make this priority, sustainable energy and, research and innovation, bring in the environment engineering under the PEO shelter also, basically having the workshops and basically promoting sustainable and energy and renewable energy and those type of things that can help out. The automotive industry is a huge area that PEO has totally ignored, right? So we have all our targets to basically have the green energy converting the combustion engines to the electric vehicles. So the huge challenge, right? So PEO should collaborate with the automotive industry and basically they get the benefit so that we can be part of this drive.
Okay. And Guy, what's your response to what you've heard so far?
So I've got two responses, which is something that I haven't heard from my two colleagues. I do agree with everything you're saying, but I got two new points. One of my pillars is that I want more active government engagement. So what I'm telling you is I support the GLP program, but here's where I'm different. I want us to work with all levels of government. I know we're regulated provincially, but climate change is an example where it's federal, provincial, and it's municipal. Okay, I'll leave it there. But the second point I want to say is we have this organization called Engineers Canada, which PEO has the strongest voice. We have 5 directors. PEO Council tells them how to vote, and then they go to Engineers Canada, and they can't do anything. So here's the thing. I say unleash our directors to have a true voice at Engineers Canada, and with the national body, we can actually have a stronger voice.
Okay.
This is the way to do it.
Thank you all very much. Yes. So we've been talking strategic plan. And so this next question will go to Asif first to respond. So the current strategic plan of PEO will end in 2025. And so during this next year, Council will likely be working on developing the next iteration of that plan. So what changes would you like to see made to PEO strategic plan starting in 2026?
I would really like to get with the key stakeholders, get their input and feedback, and then do a SWOT analysis and have a proactive plan. That is really the whole definition of the strategic plan. And then when we talk about the emerging issues, that has to be somehow top of the strategic plan as to how do we deal with it. I mean, we all have been talking about this for a while, and I heard somebody saying that we're running out of time. So what is this strategy, policy where you're not actually looking at those type of issues that are coming at you and you're running out of time? So the key thing would be to look broader sense, all of the emerging issues, emerging disciplines, working with the key stakeholders and do a thorough SWOT analysis and look for the opportunities and things that we need to work on proactively.
Okay, Asif, thank you. And Guy, what would be your response to what you've heard?
So I'd like to ditto everything that my good friend here just said. Plus, I want to state that we can't wait to reinstate the EITs. That's got to be done right away. So let's start working on the strategic plan sooner than then, because we don't have time. We need to think about how we protect the public. We need to work with our stakeholders. Look, our stakeholders are other engineers, practicing engineers, the companies, the C of A's, the companies that provide the services, the industry, universities. We need to look and learn from our learned societies, IEEE in COSI, CSA, UL, SEC. I'm all part of these things as an auditor. But we need to think about our future leaders, EITs. If they're not part of this organization, we are failing without a strategic plan.
Thanks, Guy. Vaj, what would be your response to what you've heard?
For the next strategic plan, 2026 and up, we need to include in PEO's mandate. I have already mentioned two things: emerging disciplines and environment. And as my other parts, my competition guy mentioned, some form of EIT. Maybe we may not call it an EIT. That has to be a part of PEO's mandate for 2026-2029. It will be 3 years plan. And when we devise that new plan, we need consultation from key stakeholders, a public focus group. We need input from PEO chapter systems, PEO chapters. I'm hoping PEO chapter will stay with PEO, internal PEO capacity analysis, a regulatory environmental scan, and then find PEO's gaps and opportunities. Then we, based on that feedback, we can formulate a new strategic plan 2026-2029. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much for that. So again, thinking about going forward, and this next question will go to Guy first. So nationally, among Canadian engineering regulators is a goal by 2030 to have 30% of new licensees be women. PEO signed on to this goal in the past, and how would you direct PEO's role in achieving this goal for the remaining 6 years?
Very simple. We need to embrace the emerging disciplines. It's a game changer. I mean, I don't know how I can say it any clearer than that. My research shows that women engineers are involved with software, with cyber, and with AI. These are the emerging disciplines. As we all know, the traditional engineering disciplines were, I hate to say it, the old boys club, or it was a man's traditional industry. But here's the thing: we need to embrace that there's a new generation. There's a new practice, and if PEO doesn't want to move on that, then we'll just keep talking about it. But I think we can achieve the goal in 6 years if we can get our act together. Plain and simple.
Okay, and Vaj, what's your response on what you've heard?
The first thing I would like to say for the 30 by 30 task force, which is what it's called, that was a very huge mistake by PEO when it ended that task to support funding financially that task force by a council motion of December 21, 2021. And that was a huge mistake. So we have to keep on funding that program. How we can achieve by making more women sign up for engineering programs is start at a grassroots level. We can start supporting programs, which again used to be a PEO initiative through Education Committee called STEM Arts Team. We need to provide funding to those programs. When we start at a grassroots level, support women, ladies at the grassroots level, they will start signing up for science and technology and math courses, and then they will end up being in engineering schools, and then we can achieve that objective. So I will be the first one to support a task force, keep on funding that 30 by 30 task force, which unfortunately was shut down by PEO.
Okay. And Asif, what are your thoughts on what you've heard?
So we've done two things here in Windsor chapter level. We created a committee called Empowering Women in Engineering. And then the second thing I did back in 2011, I started what we call Engineering Innovation Station Engineering Your Life. So what I started doing was collaborating with the schools from middle school to from middle school to grade school and high school, and basically inspire them about engineering. And it goes back to some of the things that PEO can do, that you basically build a trust in engineering so that you can make the engineers proud. One of the things that I tell my students the first day in my class is that your graduate engineers, if you know who you are as an engineer, what engineers do to make this world a better place, you'll be so proud. The problem is you don't really realize that. So how do we do that? I think what we need to do that, and it will bring women also, but it needs to be across the board, whether women or men, that we bring that pride in engineering so that we can inspire people.
Okay. Thank you all for that. So time has gone quickly, and just letting you know, we have time for just 2 more questions before we go to the closing remarks. So this next question, Vaj will be the first one to respond. So in 2021, PEO Council approved an anti-racism and equity code which included a next step to evaluate PEO's role in truth and reconciliation and report back at its annual general meetings. So what do you think council's accountability should be towards the TRC's calls to action?
One of the council's accountability is, and I will be always supporting it if I am fortunate enough to be elected vice president, keep on continuing funding that program, which we did not fund in 2022. And also something similar what we do for 30 by 30 task force, create some kind of task force, in terms of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which would encourage people from First Nations to sign up for STEM programs starting at the middle school and high school level, and then and encourage them to sign up for engineering programs at various engineering schools. And I will always be the first one to keep on funding that program. And this is something we need to address. We are in the 21st century, and we are so far behind in terms of encouraging people, women and people from First Nations to sign up for engineering programs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Asif, what's your response to this question?
So I believe the inclusion of Indigenous people in mainstream is so critical. The perspective both in post-secondary engineering education and engineering professional is achieving advances in engineering and applied sciences. I think Engineers Canada has some initiative going on, such as supporting Indigenous people's access to the post-secondary school. So I believe PEO should collaborate with Engineers Canada and such organizations like Canadian Indigenous Advisory Council to basically identify ways to collaborate so that you can empower some of the engineers who are not in the mainstream right now, and then also support those programs that are providing the access to the basic education in high school and the post-secondary so that they can be ready to get into engineering profession.
Okay, thank you, Asif. And Guy, what's your response to this question?
Well, my response is humbly to sit and listen. And my company, we've had occasion this past year, because of the work that we do and the communities that we work with, we've been able to honor within our company the work. But I know this has been something that our friend and late Peter Cushman was chair of this task force, and it's something that happened since I left council. I haven't been following it from PEO perspective, but I do support it, and I do think it is an important initiative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. So the last question tonight is the following, and Asif, you'll be the first one to respond. So the VP role, the vice president role, is in fact a one-year term, whereas most terms on council are 2 years. And some might assume it is a stepping stone to the presidency. So do you plan to run for president-elect next year? Asif.
So the reason I'm running for this position is that I believe that since I've been long-term in strategic positions, leading into large organizations and everything, and I have a passion for this profession. I mean, I work in the United States. I don't work in Canada. I don't use the PEO license for my job, but I have a passion that drives me to contribute and give back to this profession. So given my commitment, my passion, and leadership skills and experience that I have, and I know there's a need, and if I'm elected for vice president, I believe it will be a stepping stone, and I'll be looking forward to run for the president-elect for sure.
Thank you very much, Asif. Guy, what's your response?
Well, my response would be my visibility rate now is from now to when the polls close on, is it February the 16th? Mm-hmm. And I'm running to be a voice because I think there needs to be a strong voice during the election. I think the election is the time which people don't really recognize that it is a volunteer contribution. It is a selfless act. We do put ourselves out there, and trust me, in the next 2 months, it will take time away from my family, but I will not be doing anything to jeopardize my work. having said that, I plan to enjoy the experience, to reach out to young engineers, EITs, and to talk with industry, talk with licensed holders, actually all across Canada in my travels. And then it will be the people that will decide if I'm worthy to go to the next step.
Okay, thank you very much, Guy. And Vaj, what's your response?
That's a very interesting question. I ran for council based on input and feedback from my many mentors and fellow councillors when I ran for councillor at large, and even this year when I was planning on running initially for councillor at large, and then I was asked by my colleagues to run, my mentors, many of them, to run for vice president. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I will still go back to them. And if they give me a feedback that you have done a good job as a vice president, then you should run for president-elect. Of course, there's a huge commitment. It's a 3-year commitment. There are many other factors a person has to consider before deciding. So at this time, I would say I would be just focusing on getting elected as vice president. And then based on my council experience going forward and previous experiences, sure, I would be planning on running for it. I don't know if in next year or so. That will depend on input from others.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vaj. And thank you everybody for your comments and thoughts tonight. So this now concludes the question portion of the meeting. And now each candidate will have 90 seconds for their closing remarks. So Asif Khan, please, your closing remarks.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Marissa, for coordinating this meeting this evening. So this 90 seconds I have, I'd like to talk to the members as a member, not as a candidate. Look, we get this election every year. Every year, candidates run for this election. Some of them get elected. And then they serve the terms of the council. They come back and ask for your vote again. I'm talking as a member. So we see these candidates, and they list the problems that all of us talked about. And if you look at the historical data, they actually recycle the same problems and issue over and over. The question is, why don't they get solved? You know, they get to the council, they sit there, and they come back, but the question remain unsolved. Well, I'm problem solver and an analytical minded person. I think the root cause is that maybe we elect good people, great people, good looking people, a lot of good things, but they may not have those skills that you need on the council. You really need the strategic leadership experience, not the claim, but actual experience. So let's do this thing this time, my dear friends, that take time to vote, tell everybody to vote, and then take time to really learn about these candidates, including myself. Any position that you're eligible to vote for, only vote for the candidate who actually brings the real experience that is much needed on council that can lead the PEO. Let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asif Khan. And next now, so Guy Boone, please, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Marissa. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you and my esteemed colleagues. My goal tonight was to have a meaningful and fruitful conversation where we could discuss important issues that are affecting PEO. I think we did that tonight, and I would like to say that the conclusion was that emerging disciplines must be reinstated. The EITs must be reinstated. The chapters need to be retained but reformed. We need to enhance the EIT, the CPD peak program. We need to actually develop a means for new grads and foreign trained engineers to get their experience in a more meaningful and effective way through mentorship. We didn't talk about that, but it was on my agenda. Obviously, we need to embrace the world that we live in. There's emerging technologies, cyber, software, AI. They're not going away. And the issue is PEO up to the challenge? I say yes, it is. We need the right leadership. We need people with focus. We need a council that's unified And most importantly, I want to say vote Safety Guy for VP. Hashtag Safety Guy for VP. Check out my website, safetyguyboone.ca. I value your support.
Thank you very much, Guy Boone. And now we'll hear from Vaj Bande for your closing remarks.
Thanks, Marissa, for moderating this debate. Thanks, Asif and Guy, and those watching the debate. My fellow engineers, we face critical challenges that demand action from an experienced member of the council who can effectively address these pressing issues. I believe I am the perfect candidate to do that. PEO persists in a dated approach, overlooking crucial disciplines, member and volunteer participation, and societal concerns such as the environment. Sectors like software engineering, aerospace engineering, cybersecurity, nanotechnology engineering, and biomedical engineering are booming, but the young graduates from these disciplines are not seeking PEO licenses. Elect Vaj Bande as your vice president to spark a change. A vote for me is a vote for self-governance. A vote for me is a vote for bringing PEO into the 21st century. A vote for me is a vote for trust, truth, and transparency. A vote for me is a vote for democratic practice. And most importantly, a vote for Vaj is a vote for you, the members and the engineers. To know further about my platform, please visit my website, www.votevajahat.com. That is www.votevajahat.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaj Bande. So now this concludes tonight's discussion. I would like to thank the candidates for their participation and also those watching online for your interest in the governance of the engineering profession. I hope you found the meeting to be informative and worthwhile. As a reminder, a recording of all candidate meetings will be on the PEO's website for the duration of the election voting period. So thank you again to everyone for participating in our discussion. And remember, your profession matters, and so does your vote. Voting is quick and voting is easy. You can vote online or by phone. Voting opens on Friday, January the 12th, and voting closes at 4 p.m. on Friday, February the 16th. All the information you need is on the website www.peovote.ca. That's www.peovote.ca. So please join us live tomorrow, January the 4th at 5:30 p.m. for the Eastern Regional Councillor, followed by the President-elect all candidate meetings. And good night.
Thank you.